Welcome to the podcast where together, every Monday, we explore hospitality in its very broadest sense. From culture and cooking, cocktails and coffee, nutrition and farming, politics and animal welfare, organic and sustainability, family and business, entrepreneurship, and much, much more. Come and learn with me, Mark Cribb, about where our food and our drink comes from, and the businesses and, more importantly, the human beings that thrive on where we decide to spend our time and our money. Sign up to our weekly newsletter at humansofhospitality.co.uk and hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. Welcome to episode number 113, and if you've not listened before, where have you been? And if you're a new regular, thank you so much. It means a lot that you spare the time to tune in. Now, I'm almost too confused to talk about this week in hospitality. Wales is about to reopen, Scotland now has 5 tiers, England is pretty much closed, furlough's been extended until March next year, the retention bonus has been removed. We've really got no idea if we can open for Christmas, suppliers have no idea what stock to order, we've got no idea whether we should be putting the Christmas decorations up. Frankly, I'm over planning for the future and I'm just rolling with the punches. Most people I speak with are exasperated. Many are very confused as to whether hospitals are busier than this time last year or not. It's really messy. The general vibe seems to be just try and survive until March and then spring will see a change intact. Obviously, on a personal level, I've got absolutely no bloody idea, so sorry for anyone tuning in for some wise words. What I have got though is an awesome guest who I'm very confident is going to make you smile and be proud to either work in or be interested in the world of hospitality, food and drink. Rocco Bova is living quite the hospitality adventure. I wanted to catch up with him for a few reasons. Firstly, he's running a health resort in Mexico. Now, for anyone watching The Long Way Up on Apple TV about Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman riding electric motorbikes from the southern tip of South America all the way up to LA, Mexico's getting a hard time. A reputation for drug cartels and kidnapping, and more recently, a catastrophic impact of COVID-19. But Rocco loves Mexico, and he's lived in enough countries to be able to make an objective decision. And secondly, with people maybe questioning why they work in hospitality and wondering what the future might hold, Rocco demonstrates just what an exciting and varied career it can provide. He's worked in all the corners of the globe, really getting to know local cultures and people as he lives in rather than travels through so many different countries. It's one of the great opportunities a career in hospitality can provide. But I wanted to chat realistically about the pros and the cons. Is a family life still possible? Is managing different cultures a challenge? Does he miss the comforts of a regular home life? Now, I won't spoil the conversation, but safe to say Rocco absolutely loves hospitality and all the adventurous opportunities it has created for him. Finally, Rocco runs a wellness resort and has some strong views on the vortex of negative thinking and what we should all be doing both mentally and physically to maintain a positive outlook and make the most of our limited time on Earth, COVID or no COVID. We also chat through some practical tips on social media management, how to make guests feel like they are staying with their own mother for their vacations, how excited he is that his kids are following in his footsteps and studying hospitality, and the global human values of respect, love and trust, and so much more. So whether you're driving your car or walking your dog or cooking or commuting or sitting at your desk, I think Rocco is going to make you happy. And if he does, can you do me a quick favour, please? Go to your podcast player of choice and subscribe, rate and review this show. Now, Rob Blackwell, thank you for letting me know that it's not possible to leave a review in Spotify. Fair enough, consider yourself off the hook. But for all those listening on Apple, you know what to do. And for those of you that can, a donation via regular Patreon support or a one-off donation via the PayPal button on the website humansofhospitality.co.uk is also hugely appreciated and means I can keep on producing this podcast every single week. Okay, right, over to Rocco Bova. Rocco Bova, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Hugely appreciated. You are the GM at Chablé, Yucatán, all the way over in Mexico. Can you just explain to people listening, where are you in the world? Are you at the office, Rocco?
Hi, Mark. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Yes, thank you very much for inviting me, Mark. It's a great pleasure and honor to be on your podcast. And I'm talking right now from the resort. Normally my day starts at around 8 o'clock in the morning. Now it's 10 o'clock in the morning here in Mexico. And I am located in the middle of the Maya jungle in the southeast part of Mexico or the peninsula of Yucatan. And the capital of Yucatan state is Merida. So we are about 35 minutes from the airport of Merida.
Wow, amazing! I never did I know my podcast adventure would take me into the depths of the Mexican jungle. I find it incredible that it's mid afternoon here, early morning there. What a privilege! I only wish that I'd come to see you because it looks absolutely incredible there, Rocco.
Yes, Mark, I get a lot of let's call it a positive envy about
Yeah.
my job, and but at the end of the day, you see, if you are passionate about something, your passion can really take you anywhere. You don't really need to do so much more. Passion and hard work, these are for me the two ingredients or the secret, to my recipe. There is nothing else, to add. If you really love what you do and you work hard for it, everything is possible.
It's true. So that is a very good segue because there's a few reasons that I wanted to have a chat with you, Rocco. Firstly, I think you epitomise. We'll get into a little bit of your career history and some of the countries you've worked. But for me, hospitality is such a exciting sector to work in because it really can take you all over the world to incredible countries, and that's something you've definitely done. Secondly, you're based in Mexico, and I'm fascinated to hear how different countries are dealing with the global challenges of the pandemic. So I want to get into a little bit about how you're navigating that in Mexico. And then finally, you now specialize in wellness, and with all that's going on in the world, I thought having a chat about our sort of mental and physical well-being would be really good. So you're originally from Italy, I believe, but the resort that you're in, can you just describe this Chablé resort a little bit? Because it really is sort of almost within. It's not even sort of perched on top of. It's really sort of within the jungle, isn't it? Can you just talk to me a little bit about the space?
Sure. Well, let me tell you first about my how did I get here, because that's also a kind of an interesting story. When I was in the Caribbean, I was working for another company at the time, and I coincidentally, basically, my contract was over there, and I began a new search. I wanted to remain in the region because from the Caribbean to go back to Middle East or Asia or somewhere else where I already had familiarity with the people and companies. I said to my wife and my kids, I said, okay, why don't we give it a go and try to stay here. And so I did. I did began to search for an opportunity, and guess what? There was a hotel that I never heard of, a country that I've never been to, and I didn't speak a single word of Spanish. And I said, okay, well, let's give it a try. It doesn't cost anything. So I tried. I tried my luck. I sent my CV, and within 2 weeks, I was already in Mexico, in Yucatan. The owners, they flew me here, to show me the property and to show me how proud they were of the property, and the rest, I guess, is history. We when I landed at Merida's airport, the airport itself is actually a very very nice modern airport, and I was skeptic because I'd never been to this country before, so I had no expectations. However, when a person read or investigate or hear about a certain country, it makes a little bit of an idea. And my idea of Mexico was of a developing country, to be frank. And guess what? I was completely wrong. I mean, here there's nothing to be developed anymore, I guess, because it's very, very modern in Yucatan. Actually, the whole peninsula of Yucatan is extremely modern. Generally, infrastructure, airport, schools, hospitals, You have shopping malls. I mean, you have everything that you need, like in Europe, if not even better than some part of Europe. And I was very surprised. The second thing that really surprised me was the kindness of the people. You know, how friendly are the people here. You know, people, when they welcome you here, they welcome you with a hug. Besides shaking your hand, they also give you a hug, and they give you a pat on the back. It's really funny because, of course, in Italy we also hug, and kiss between men or women, but here is they give you this warm welcome that really make you feel at home. And even though I didn't speak Spanish, people really made an effort to speak slowly, and even I had some few words that I could speak in Spanish, but then it was so easy for me to integrate in the culture. And within a couple of months, I was already fluent in the language, so I could communicate with everybody. And definitely, the resort, it's amazing. You have to drive about 35 minutes first. You drive literally through jungle to then arrive in a little village called Chochola, which is an old village that has been here for at least 300 or 400 years, as old as the hacienda is, because the hotel Chablé is used to be an hacienda before. An hacienda is like a farm, and the peninsula of Yucatan, in case you never heard of it, the entire peninsula of Yucatan about 200 years ago was completely farmed with a cactus like plant, from which they were extracting a natural fiber called sisal. And out of the sisal, Yucatan was the only place in the world about 200 years ago where this natural fiber was made. And so imagine 200 years ago, every rope in the world was made in Yucatan. Therefore, you can imagine also the wealth, that this part of Mexico actually made, over a period of 150 years, up to the point of the invention of the nylon, obviously this artificial fiber, and then obviously the entire industry of the sisal collapsed, and all the hacienda, there were more than 2,000 haciendas in Yucatan. They were abandoned because there was no need anymore to produce this natural fiber. And only about 10 years ago, some private investors, they started to purchase this land and these abandoned haciendas to transform them into private homes, or eventually touristic business like this one where I am now.
Wow, that's amazing. But over this period of time, how long ago did they stop farming the sea sale there? Did you say?
Oh, well, it was basically they started farming since the 1940s, 1950s, because there was no more need, obviously, for this fiber. And now they are restarting again, but they don't make ropes. They only make other stuff. They make jewelry, bags. They make accessories for fashion. As a matter of fact, in
Okay.
fact, you can buy many articles on in shops and boutiques around Mexico.
Amazing. So in this period then, from when the haciendas, when they stopped sort of farming to now, from what I've seen on the website, the sort of the jungle has in essence reclaimed the land, is it? Because it looks like the resort is almost sort of is built into some of the historical buildings and built into the jungle. So is that fair to say, or is it different parts? Because certainly where you are, it looks like nature took over again.
Totally, so much so that basically, the owners, by choice, they decided to build low density, spare trees, as many trees as possible, and any trees that was older than 10 or 15 years old was actually kept on site or moved to another location. And in fact, you have many of the villas. You go through jungle before you get into your villa. I mean, sometimes you need to walk like 30 meters before you get into your door, and then you enter into your room. And all the walls are made of crystal glass, so you can actually see through when you wake up in the morning or when you take a shower. everything is made of glass. So the entire walls, allows you to feel like you are in the middle of the jungle.
Wow, and it's huge, 750 acres. Is that correct?
That is correct. It is that's actually the size of one hacienda. The haciendas were divided into 350 or approximately 300 acres, so between 350 and 300 acres. So 325 acres or 375 acres will actually make twice the size of one hacienda. So what happens is that the owner purchased one hacienda, so the actual building, and twice the land of that was allowed for each hacienda. So in the old days, the governor of that state would only give around 350 acres to each hacienda.
Okay, and now the resort itself then sort of grown into this huge sort of space and this huge jungle. What is it? It's mainly individual villas. How many villas do you have within
We
the complex?
we have 36 one bedroom villa, and then we have a two bedroom villa which are made for families, and then we have two more 3 bedroom villas. These are made for bigger families or maybe a group of friends that they want to stay together, for a total of 40 units.
Okay, wow. So you've got a lot of space for each one then. Presumably, a lot of the grounds is what, undeveloped, or is it
Well,
is it used? Because I know you've
we have
got
about
spa.
50 acres, so 1 acre for each villa, or a little bit more than 1 acre per villa developed, and then the rest of the 700 is just pure jungle, wild jungle. In fact, you can see a lot of wildlife, including not only birds and we have deers, we have snakes, crocodiles,
Wow.
armadillos. I mean, we are quite. Is an open zoo.
Yeah, amazing. And then, well, who's the target market then? Is this people who maybe are traveling around Mexico anyway, and they come in for a few days, or do people tend to come to you specifically for a sort of longer holiday?
Well, no, actually, we have identified a segment in Mexico. So Mexican market is our number one. It's been always the strongest since the opening of the resort. And then obviously on the second and third year, we actually started to experience a more international crowd, namely US and Europe, with a 50-50 balance, so 50% Mexican and 50% international. And then obviously over the past 10 months, we've been pretty much 100% Mexican again, because a lot of countries, they're not comfortable to travel, or they have this concern of traveling. And but then because we had a great reputation in the country, we are thriving. Actually, on the contrary, we're doing better than last year. Already September, we closed nearly 40% better than last year, and October we did more than double compared to last year. So we are quite happy with the results.
Wow, that's amazing. Because so this is we'll dive off a little bit if you don't mind into the sort of bigger Mexico picture, because a lot of the certainly the press coverage in the UK and I guess most of Europe is that Mexico's had a big impact, third or fourth most impact from COVID, 730,000 cases, 76,000 deaths. It looked like the country was closed to outsiders, but the experience inside it? Is it that it's very much regionalized and around where you are is not particularly impacted, or is it just that the domestic tourism market is so strong and people have wanted to get a break? How is it, I suppose, to be there and witness this pandemic in Mexico?
Well, actually, the numbers you have are probably a little bit slightly older. We actually more than 80,000 cases already.
It was
Sorry,
yesterday.
86,000 deaths and more than 800,000 cases. But everything is relative at the end of the day. We all know that these are all relative numbers, and we need to take everything with a pinch of salt. Now, the reality is that the hotel never closed. We always been open. We only closed to the public for 2 months, but we've been operating all the time, meaning that we had to do maintenance, security, gardening, and so on and so forth. So this has never stopped. And then, secondarily, is that when the government gave us the green light to open with a lower occupancy, which was on the 8th of June, we reopened. The owners were very keen to open as soon as possible because we didn't want to stay closed. And within 1 month of reopening, our occupancy already started to see improvement. And then, as I said, between June and September, we already been able to do better than last year. So I think that the strategy that we have applied since we closed in April 1st, and up until now, is actually paying back now, because a lot of company, what they did when they closed down, they stopped doing anything. They were not present on social media. They were not present in terms of sales and marketing. They were not present with the industry, with the press. While our strategy, at least, was to be even more than before present. Imagine that when I was working during the closure, I was at the hotel. I was coming every day to work, and I was recording a video, like a 2 or 3 minutes video, and I was posting this on my social media network, both Facebook, particularly on Facebook, because that's where I have a lot of travel agents as my friends. And I was telling them a new story every single day of a place within the resort that they didn't know. So I actually did like a sales pitch every single day, so that they could not forget about us. They could actually continue to remember us. And guess what? I mean, they were so grateful because every day they would discover a new place, even without being here, and they were able to travel virtually in our property.
Amazing. Okay. Well, clearly it worked. What's the national picture? Is everybody in masks? Do you have a lot of restrictions on how many people? So in the UK at the moment, well, I say in the UK, it just depends on where you are in the country. Certain parts of the country, hospitality is closed. Other parts, you can only stay open until 6 in the evening. Some places you can only go out with people in your own house. Some people you can go up with 6 people. What's the situation in Mexico? Is hospitality being a sort of focal point for controls, or is it allowed to sort of carry on as it wishes?
No, no, no. Obviously, no. We have a certain limitation. I mean, for example, conferences only starts as from Monday next week, for example, and conferences for a maximum of 150 people. We still have a curfew, for example, in Yucatan. In the state of Yucatan is the only state in all of Mexico that actually still has a curfew. The curfew starts at 11:30 in the evening and stops at 5:30 in the morning next day. Shopping malls are open. Now cinema, theater will be starting next Monday also. I mean, the economy has been reopening in phases, and I have to say that the way it's been managed here is being managed very well, probably the best. That's why we've been able to be consistently doing better. Airline are starting to fly more often. Obviously, distancing, wearing mask, washing hands, using gel, this hasn't changed since March last year. And but I have a feeling that the numbers are much better managed here in Yucatan than the rest of Mexico. In Cancun, for example, they've been opening too quickly, too much. And I can see now they're starting to pay their consequences with more cases. But, I think that the number of deaths are going down, or are being stable. And the deaths, again, are always relative, because they always affect people with some kind of illness that they already had anyway, either the age, or maybe they have kidneys problem, or maybe they already had prior to contracting COVID, they had maybe respiratory problems. So we need to be very careful on how to read numbers and really search further. The press, unfortunately, is giving a lot of partial information. No, they never tell you how these people died. They tell you that they were dead, but they never tell you how and why they died. So this is it's sad to say, but unfortunately, there's only partial information giving out, and that brings a lot of confusion. Uh, on the other hand, here we have already, the government has announced that by December they will get the population vaccinated. So they already purchase more than 50 million units of vaccine, and in December they will start. So that's also another sign of confidence. That the country is investing money to ensure that their population will be vaccinated.
That's interesting because we still haven't been told that there is a effective vaccine. Although I've heard that people in China are already being vaccinated as well. So, what's the situation? We'll move on from COVID in a minute because it's been dominating our lives too much. But last question: financial support. Of the government in a similar way to in Europe, lots of the hospitality workforce or many workforces have been furloughed. There's been grants for hospitality. Have they been similarly helping business?
Not really. I mean, Europe is obviously another, or the US is another country, and obviously Mexico cannot afford to provide help to 150 million people. Is a big country, one, and they never had really a social structure, to be able to manage this kind of support. However, on the other hand, there were some states in Mexico, including the state of Yucatan, where the government was handing over, like food, basic food, milk, sugar, flour, even toilet paper, like the basic that one person would need, to survive, to make a living. And companies, by government to company, they've been given like delays in paying taxes, for example, or even between private and private to, they were given time not to pay rent. I mean, I think in all it's been fairly done here, considering where we are. It's been very fairly done. I mean, I come from the south of Italy. I don't think anyway, I don't want to talk about that, but I don't think I don't think I don't think Mexico has done badly. From a personal point of view, from a foreigner point of view, I think Mexico has been handling their situation pretty well compared to where we are and compared with the resources that they have. And I'm still here. Actually, not a single person in our hotel has lost their job. That also tells you also the commitment of certain private owners, that they, even though they knew they were going to lose money, they were ready to keep everybody on the payroll with some sacrifices, of course, rather than cutting, like they did in many parts of Europe or the States, where they slashed 50, 60, 70% of the staff. Here, they say, where else I'm going to find a good person already trained after this, when the business will come back, and the business has come back. Imagine, I had to actually even call for extra help from outside because I didn't have enough staff in some occasions. So, we reached occupancy in some days of above 70% in one day only. But just to tell you, we are busier than ever before. So it's good news.
Interesting. Well, congratulations, and it's just interesting to hear, how other countries are coping, I guess. But let's go away from COVID and back into the world of hospitality. So, like I say, one of the things that I just suppose I found exciting looking back at your career is you've worked in some incredible places over the last sort of 20 odd years. You've been in the Middle East, you've been in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, Mauritius, Oman, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore. But your education started, funny enough, in London. How did you get into hospitality, and what was it that attracted you to it? Was it that sort of thought of global travel? Because although it is available, not many people actually get around as many countries as you have. So can you just explain, how did you end up in London, and how did you end up traveling the globe on this hospitality adventure?
Yeah, well, let me tell you first, an advice for young hoteliers or young students in hotel schools. If you have made a decision to join the hospitality, keep your dream alive. This is only a vacation time for the tourism industry. It's only a break that the industry is taking. Maybe it's the world that needs a break, from two people traveling. I think we travel too much. Maybe everybody needs a break. And the tourism, I hope that we all learn something from this pandemic, and we will become travelers, not tourists. People need to travel with a purpose. They don't need to travel just to tick the box and say I've been in 150 countries, because I have not been to so many countries after all. and I'm not a tourist. I am a traveler. I prefer to say I've lived in 11 countries only, but I know those countries very well. I can say that I know each of those countries much better than a tourist that has been in 150 countries and just went there to take a picture. So let's make a distinction. How did I get to the hospitality industry? Is when I was 20 something, I had no clue on what to do in my life. But what I really did know was that I wanted to travel the world. That's the one thing I knew. And by coincidence, in my hometown in Italy, in the south of Italy, I met a Brazilian guy. His name is Aelito Neri, and I think he is my angel. And Aelito, after working my shift in a pizzeria, at around 10 o'clock at night and over a beer, he asked me, Rocco, what do you want to do in your life? And I said to Aelito, I said, I don't know, Aelito, I'm not sure yet, but the one thing I am sure that I want to travel the world. And he said to me, why don't you come to London? I can help you. I've been living there for 10 years. And I looked at his eyes and I said to him, Aelito, if you're not kidding, I'm coming. And he said to me, of course I'm not. Please, please, I can help you there, no problem. So 2 weeks later, I bought myself a one-way ticket. I had £400 in my pocket. I didn't speak a word of English. And off I go. Off I went to London, on an airplane with another friend. We were two of us. We went there. Within a week, we found a job in an Italian restaurant because it was easier for us to work in an environment where it was easy to communicate. I went to an English college, or a college for English language, where eventually I met my girlfriend, which is my wife today. And I lived in London and worked in some of the best establishments there for about 4 years. And after I graduated at the Westminster College in 1999, I got my first job as a restaurant manager at the Jumeirah Beach Hotel in Dubai. And then from there, my career really started from Dubai into Singapore, as you said, Kuala Lumpur, India, etc., etc. And I'm still extremely proud, passionate, and happy with what I've done until now.
Yeah, wow, that's a real adventure. Funny enough, one of my questions was going to be that it looks like a really sort of adventurous, exciting life, and I'm sure there's pros and cons. But I imagined that one of the cons was going to be that it was hard to have a family if you were moving that much. But that's pretty cool that you actually met your wife in London, or you met your then girlfriend. Did she travel with you to all of these places, or did you two reunite later?
No, of course. We always travel as a family. And this was also one of my conditions when I met with her and we started to hang out and going out, and then eventually we started to talk about our life. And she asked me, at one point she asked me to get married, and I told her, okay, we will get married at one condition. My condition is that I will continue to travel and to explore new places, new countries, because I want to travel the world. I want to discover what's out there. And she said to me, okay. And then for me was a deal, and 25 years later, we're still together. We have two beautiful kids. And my son, actually, also to my pride, also has chosen to study hospitality. So he will be starting university in September next year. My daughter, she still has another 2 years to go, but I hope also she will join the tourism industry, because it's a wonderful industry. It's an industry that I will never ever change for any other in the world.
Oh, it's a beautiful little treat talking to you, Rocco, after the sort of, too much am I bombarded by the negativity of all of the problems in hospitality at the moment. But to speak to you with that energy and passion and love for the planet and for our sector, it's good timing. I think you'll be making lots of people smile out there and
I
falling
hope
back
so.
in love with. Yeah, it's felt a little bit like the industry sort of being battered by the international governments at the moment, certainly the British government. And so it's just nice to know that, long term, it is a beautiful, beautiful sector. So well done. That's awesome. To be able to have a family and live that lifestyle is brilliant. When you look back at the countries you've worked in and you've lived in, any particular favourites?
Yes, actually, a lot of guests ask me the same question. When I tell them my story, and they hear about my different experiences, they always ask me, which one do you like most? And yes, indeed, my three best experiences in as a whole, because you have to combine family life, private life, and work. And the three top countries, in not in order of preference, so just they are the places where I enjoyed most, was Malaysia, Oman in the Middle East, and now Mexico. I think we've been blessed to work in countries where the culture and the roots are very, very deep down. Meaning, so if you go to Malaysia, for example, you have a blend of three cultures. You have the Malay, you have the Indian, and you have the Chinese, so that they live together in the same place, and they all have a role in the society, and they all, there's no racism, or there's no evident racism between who is the best. There is no competition. Everyone is very clear what is their role. And I really enjoyed working there. The culture is great. The people are very nice and friendly. They love life. They enjoy life. Um, Food is fantastic, because you can have Chinese, you can have Indian, you can have Malay at the same time. And the country is huge. There is so much there to go and see and explore. Oman, among all the Arab countries, is probably one of the most traditional yet modern at the same time. So they are relaxed towards Western people. They don't oblige you, for example, as a woman, to cover up. I mean, you can go to any public beach and see even the locals walking on the beach with their family. I mean, it's so open as a society. And the former sultan who died, who passed away just a few months ago, actually, Sultan Qaboos, he did an amazing job to preserve the country, and not to overbuild and overdo and do too much. He kept the country as original as possible, and preserve the culture, and um, help the culture actually grow and continue, rather than modernize too quickly and losing the essence of their history. And Mexico, for some reasons, is just very close to my own country. The culture is very similar. Actually, I felt very, very little when I discovered how little I know about the culture and the history of Mexico. Here, I mean, for example, talking about the Maya culture goes 2,000 years ago, or even more. I mean, there are because there is no history left. Everything was destroyed sadly by the colonization of the Spanish. They destroyed, they burned down everything. There is not much history left. But whatever is left goes back, a couple of thousand of years, and still there is a lot to be discovered and studied. So there is a very ancient culture in Mexico, and also the modern Mexico is cool. People are very nice, very friendly. Again, they're very open minded. I don't know. I feel home here. And my family also in the three countries, they've been able to find their friends. To my kids, they grow up, with certain people. It was just the best combination of family, private life, work life.
Yeah, amazing. It's good. And they're very different. I think, yeah, particularly Oman and Mexico. I suppose I would imagine them to be very sort of different cultures, but nice that there's something to appreciate in all of them. Downsides though, what are the downsides of so much travel in your life? What's the compromises you feel you've made?
Well, if you work too much, you actually don't visit a lot of the country that you live in. That's the downside. That's the only thing I regret. Regret relatively always, because I dedicate so much time to my work, because I want to make sure that I do it well, and I do it. I fulfill also the need of the company that employs me. That dedication obviously implies that. the little time that you have to give it to your family. And therefore, the time for traveling and discovering the country itself remains little, because when I have holiday, I go back to Italy, of course, because I also want to see my family back in Italy. I've got my mom and my siblings and my friends, so it's always nice to go back to. That's the only downside, honestly. Everything else is possible, because a lot of people, they say, well, how can you raise a family by traveling so much and moving from one country to another? You have to change school, you have to change it. I mean, it's possible. It's just a matter of willingness, and be able to say yes, it's possible to be done. I mean, there's nothing that cannot be done if your mind is geared to do it. Then you can do it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I think we always put obstacles in our paths, but it's not really true. Really, I travelled a lot 20 years ago, and I'd meet families. I remember being in the jungle in Sumatra, and you'd meet people on these global adventures, and you think, oh, so few people in the UK would actually have the guts, I suppose, to just give up normal life and go off and do it. But actually, once you do it, it's possible, and it's quite normal, and it's nice to see. How did your kids? Because your kids must have presumably, was there a constant language that they had their education in, or not only did they change countries and then have to change schools, did they also have to change the language they were being taught in?
Yeah, normally we've been lucky to find international schools in every country that we've been living in too. At the beginning, until the age of 10 years, actually they studied in a French school. Because my wife, she's French, so the mother tongue is French. And after that, from the age of 11, they went to international schools. So the first 10 years, they studied in French and English, and the second part of their life they started to learn English and Spanish. So it's been now since 5 years. The past 5 years they've been studying in Spanish and English.
Amazing. You speak fluent French as well, Rocco? Or?
Yes, yeah. Well, I forgot it a little bit, because when I was in Mauritius, for example, the majority of our guests were French, and conversation with staff also was in French. I don't speak French with my wife. With my wife, I speak Italian, and so I speak with my kids in Italian. But then my wife, she answered me back in French, and my kids, they speak to me in English. So it's a bit of a mess, but somehow we understand each other. In
I love that. That's very cool. Yeah, it's nice. One planet. Who needs to go and live on Mars? There's enough good stuff going on in this
Oof,
country.
of
I'm
course.
interested to know. So part of management, and probably particularly in hospitality, is about coaching and mentoring. Often, sort of young teams. It's an interesting industry. Is there a lot of subtleties? Thinking of all of those different cultures of people that you've managed, is everybody fundamentally? Is it the same things that make them tick, or actually are your team sort of very different in the different countries on how you need to manage and motivate them?
I love this question. And not many people ask me this question. It's very rare, but I love this question. And I challenge anyone to tell me, the opposite. The human values do not change in no matter in which country you are. Human values, respect, love, trust. These are values that are universal. If you are able to apply the human values first before you try to influence somebody else or you try to change something, then so if you are able to apply those values, then you are able to influence. But if one person is starting by thinking about the culture and not the values of the culture, then it's going to have a huge clash, because you're going, Western culture versus a Middle Eastern culture. Maybe there are some common base, but the culture are different. But if you look at the values of each culture, 95% of the values are exactly the same. Maybe the religion may be different, and that is another value, spirituality. But if spirituality as such, if you take it into context, spirituality is the same. You believe on something above and beyond you, whether it's God, whether it's Muhammad, I mean Buddha, call it whatever you want, but it's still is based on spirituality. That's again universal. For example, in our hotel, we have a spiritual leader, and the spiritual leader sees people from any religion. And sometime at the beginning, people, they feel like, wait a minute, what is a shaman, and then they start to freak out, but at the end of the day, is a spiritual leader. And spirituality as such, if you take it into context, spirituality is about values. It is about talking about human values, and human values have not changed for hundreds of, not thousands of years, are still the same. So as an expatriate, what I learned first is to accept and respect the human values first, and then be accepted as a different person with another culture. And so far it's working so well. I cannot really complain. But in essence, there's no difference. So if whether you work in India, in China, or you work in Singapore, you work in the Middle East, or you work in Mexico or the Caribbean, human values are exactly the same.
I agree 100%. My favorite thing, and probably one of the motivations for getting into hospitality was just, the more I traveled around the world, and actually often the poorer places that I went to, where there was extreme poverty. And, I remember walking into villages in northern Vietnam, and there'd be no running water and no electricity, but the kids would come running out of the huts, and just the communication of eye contact and a smile and a friendly demeanor, and we were all motivated by the same things. We wanted to spend some time with our family and friends. We wanted to know that we could have somewhere to eat, and we wanted to know that we had somewhere safe to sort of to sleep that evening and stay overnight, and that was the core motivation for everybody
Totally.
I met, and money was irrelevant. And it's a nice thing, I think, once we get hit by this sort of global propaganda, I suppose, of the differences between race and religion and countries and all this kind of stuff. But the vast majority of people on planet Earth are actually wonderful, delicious human beings. And like you say, values is the word, isn't it? They're we have a shared common sort of value.
Totally.
I agree with you, Rocco. You've made me smile. So, what is it then? You've invested a lot of time and energy into your education in this sector, as well as different jobs and this sort of constant growth. What is it for you about hospitality? Because the compromises are you've traveled a lot, and we've spoken about that, but also you mentioned about the fact that you don't get to travel around the countries enough. It's commonly known that we work a lot of hours and we work weekends. It's a sort of always on sort of industry. What is it about working in hospitality that clearly, even though you've been doing it all this time, it clearly still makes you very happy, still makes you excited? You're excited that your kids might go into the industry. What is it that you love about this hospitality as a business and as an industry?
Is the people around it, hospitality is about making one feel like home, and if I'm able to make somebody feel like in his own home, then I tick the box. I've done my job. For example, here, as a part of the Mexican culture, which is also my own culture, by coincidence, we welcome guests with a handshake, and we bid farewell with a hug, because we receive them as a guest, but we leave them as a friend or family even. Some guests already have been with us once or more times a year. Imagine that the same guests return more than one time every year in the same place, even if they are Mexican. I mean, it may sound strange, but this is what is the real, true, genuine, basic hospitality, to make one person feel home. And I would like to cite two people, or more than two people. Let's say first is my family and how I was raised. In my home, for example, back in Italy, my parent would always open the door to anybody. They will never be afraid of opening a door to a stranger. They will always open the door, they will welcome them inside, and they will tell them, "What can I offer you?" Before even this person opened the mouth. And maybe they were like a door to door salesman, and maybe they were people that they were trying to steal you in your house, and maybe they were whatever, crazy people, but they never closed the door in the face of a person. Even my mom now, today, she's 86, God bless her. and she's still doing so. And she said, I don't have anything. If you want, I have a glass of water or a glass of milk and a piece of bread. And that to me is the basic genuine hospitality. You are welcome no matter who you are and what your purpose is. And the second person that I would like to mention is Horst Schulze, who's the founder of Ritz-Carlton Company, where in an interview some 10 years ago or so, he was talking about a concept that in hospitality recently has become let's say popular, okay? And this concept of making people feel home was very important. So people would go to a hotel to feel home. So he was saying, why would I go somewhere else and pay a lot of money sometimes to feel home? Why don't I stay in my own home? But he employed a company, actually. He paid this company to study this word, this sentence. And they actually came out with a very intelligent discovery. And the discovery was that the people that they go on vacation to feel home, they don't want to just feel home. They want to feel in their mother's home. So they want to feel pampered like a mother will pamper the son or the daughter when they come back home from a long trip and say, "Oh, you're coming back, and I'm gonna cook the food that you like. I'm gonna take care. I'm gonna do your room the way you like it." So this feeling of motherhood or parenthood when you come back to a place is how we take care of you, how much love we're gonna give you during your stay. And frankly, it really opened my mind. When I listened to this video, it was really amazing. I say, wow, I never thought of that. This is so true. And
It is, yeah.
applying these basic simple rules, in your daily work, it really helps. It really makes your job so much easier.
How do you do that though? How do you make somebody feel like they are at home with their mother? What's the yeah? What do you teach your team to
Okay,
do to
I
make
give you
that feel real?
I give you an example. So we welcome our guests at the airport. So in most cases, I mean, now I don't do it anymore because of the contingency and obviously the current situation. But before, I personally used to go at the airport to welcome my guests. So, like a mother or a parent, when they wait for their kids, we are there waiting for them. We don't wait for them at the hotel. We don't allow a a stranger to welcome them with a small piece of paper, with the name on it. No, we go there ourselves. So if I cannot make it, one of my sisters, so a senior manager of the team, will be at the airport and will meet and greet our guests at the airport. Not many hotels can do that for many reasons, but I think in a hotel like ours, we should be able to do for each single guest. And this is, to me, is a small touch, is a small difference that will make or break the relationship, the beginning of a relationship with that customer. And one of the things I say to my team, we don't have to have always and win repeat business. What we need to have is a one-time business that becomes an ambassador, that can become our brand when he goes somewhere else, and can only talk well about, if you go to Yucatan, you must go to Chablé, Yucatan.
That's nice. It's a nice touch. How about when they get there? When they walk into their villa, because that was a great example. So when they arrive at the resort and they walk into their villa, is there anything special that you have in the rooms, or anything you do that just makes them feel particularly, I don't know, special or relaxed or loved?
Sure. For example, when they come at the reception, before they come to the building itself, we do a short Maya ceremony, which is like a cleansing ceremony, which is made with with an ornament made of clay. We burn some sage and wild herbs that you find in our hotel, And this was a ritual which was done by the Maya people to remove the bad spirit, to get away any bad vibes before you actually enter a new environment. So we do this cleansing ceremony, and only then we allow them to do the check-in. The check-in is not even done in a normal check-in counter. It's actually the replica of a call it a shop, where the workers of the hacienda used to go and buy their grocery, or they used to buy their daily needs. So it doesn't look like a check-in counter as such. And then from there we walk them. We walk them through our gardens for about 200 meters before they come to the main house. And the main house used to be the house of the owner. So while doing this process, call it a process in hoteliers language, but it's actually an experience, because by the time they reach their villa, they already heard that the hacienda was 250 years old. What kind of farming they were doing over there, who was the owner, the chapel of San Antonio, and whatever we do with San Antonio every June, all the activities that can be done at the resort while they're going to be there. So we actually tell them already everything that they can experience while they are there. And another personal touch that I do, or another member of the management does, is also to invite our guests for a drink. In some hotels, for example, let's say once or twice a week, they organize a guest cocktail, so where all the guests are invited. But here we do it more personalized. We do more one-to-one basis, or either we invite them for an afternoon tea, or we invite them for a sunset cocktail. But it's more one-to-one. That's where we can build a long-term relationship. That's where we can build also loyalty. And again, not so much loyalty to return, but loyalty to the brand, and to become then brand ambassadors.
You're my new hospitality hero, Rocco. I love you.
Thank you, Mark. It's all natural. It's
Yeah.
all passionate here.
It is. It is. It's a reflex. I think it's like if you throw something at somebody and they duck, that's a reflex. And I think good hospitality is a reflex. Somebody walks into your space, and your automatic reaction is you want to look after them, and you want to say, look, can I get you anything? Would you like a drink? Are you tired? Whatever it is, it's a reflex. And yeah, I think you Italians, you do it particularly well. And I love that idea that you welcome them with a handshake and they leave with a hug. I think that's a great sort of great way of explaining when hospitality works well. We're running out of time, but I want to touch on this wellness, and I want to dip into sustainability a little bit as well. The wellness side of it. So that's something that you focus on. You've got a spa, wellness resort. You're clearly interested in making people feel relaxed and feel better. Is this something that you're just trying to sort of do whilst people are with you, or are you trying to have a longer term impact on people's wellness, so they actually take something away, something they've learned, and they take it back into their normal life? How do you look at this sort of this idea of wellness?
Well, first of all, we have to distinguish wellness and well-being and spa, very differently. Spa, for the majority of people, is a place where you go and get a nice massage. You feel great after this massage, and then maybe the day after you feel the pain again. So you have not solved the problem. You are trying to mask it a little bit, with this rubbing, of oil onto your skin. That's not solving the problem. Wellness and well-being goes beyond the massage. We all need to understand that our mind controls everything. Our brain is so powerful that can do good and can also do bad. We there are many studies about the power of our thoughts. If we get into positive thinking or negative thinking, this can affect your health. This is very proven. Even more today, in the situation of today, I tell you also a little bit of an example of what happened to me some time back. What happened to me was that the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, when we had to close down our hotel, I had to announce to 250 of my staff that we were going to close down, and I didn't know when we were going to open again. It was very difficult. It was the worst day of my life, of my career, because it was the first time that I felt I had no clue what was going to happen. Not for me, not for my family, and not for my team. And I tell you the truth, I fell into this vortex of negative thinking the beginning of this pandemic. But then I said to myself, well, wait a minute, if I do this, I lose, my team lose, and everybody lose. I mean, I cannot afford to do that. So I had to do something. I had to react. And what happened to me was I had this idea naturally or whatever, by looking at what happened on the social media, on the virtual world, that I started to see a lot of people like me in my position or even more senior than me doing exactly what you're doing, inviting speakers, of a certain level with experience and sharing their story. And the more I was learning about the stories of people from all over the world, from Asia, from China, from Africa, from Middle East, from Europe, and so on and so forth, and the more I understood, wait a minute, okay, first of all, I'm not alone. Second, if we are all in the same boat, if we all row together, maybe we can get out faster. And then I started to learn from the best, how, act on what you can manage and forget about what you cannot manage, because obviously there's no point to focus on something you cannot manage. And then by starting to do that and continuing to do that, I became an expert. Now people calls me and say, Rocco, you come on my show, you need to share your story. And I really hope that by sharing my stories to as many people as possible, I can actually help them to get out of depression, negative thinking, because your brain, your mind is so strong that you can do everything possible. And, there is nothing except reviving dead, probably, but there is nothing you cannot do, because our mind has enormous powers. But if we fall into the vortex or negative thinking, that's when we start talking about tunnel. Now is very common to talk about we start to see light at the end of the tunnel. And then in one other show, I'm going to repeat that again. But in another show where I was invited as a speaker, I said to the audience, I say, why are we talking about tunnels? There are no tunnels. Where do you see this tunnel? Every day you wake up in the morning and the sun is up and the light is there. So if we start thinking we are in a tunnel, we're going to probably get stuck in this tunnel because the tunnel is going to be extremely long. Instead, let's forget about the tunnel. Let's talk about light. Let's talk about how can we manage this light, whether it's little or a lot. Maybe we need to use some sunglasses. Maybe we don't need to use sunglasses so we can see better. But when a person becomes blind, then you cannot see, you cannot do anything because your everything blocks. And then, of course, if you are in a tunnel because it's dark, you're scared, and if you're scared, you get into defensiveness. So there is a lot of things that our mind can or cannot do depending on how you use it. And frankly speaking, Mark, I have not seen so much light like now. Everything is possible, even in today's situation. Even a lot of people that they complain that they cannot find a job, that apply for so many and nobody is answering. Well, maybe you're doing something wrong. There are jobs out there. Let me tell you, there are jobs out there. Of course, there may be no job for everybody, but during this time, there may be something else you can do. If we only complain that there are no jobs, the jobs will continue not to exist. But maybe we can create jobs that they were not there before, rather than looking for the same job like everybody else is. So I don't know if I make myself clear. There's a lot of theory out there. I'm trying to explain, but
Yeah, no,
we
it's very passionate, and I share a lot of those thoughts. I guess a lot of that is around mental and around thinking. But are there practical things then that with this journey you've been on, and it's clearly a subject that you're interested in? What can people do practically to have an impact? Because you can't just you can clearly think positive or think
you're
negative.
right.
That's possible, but some people need a more practical way of
You're
of
totally
sort of
right.
seeing that change and that shift in gear.
You are totally right. So first of all, get into habit. If your habit is to stay home in front of a computer 12 hours a day, change this habit. If by doing the same thing over and over and over is not giving you result, then you have to change the habit because it's not working. So my habit was, for example, getting to exercise every single day without fail, 20 to 30, sometimes 45 minutes, sometimes 1 hour, but every day get into some kind of movement. Movement gives ability to the body to connect to the mind, because you need to coordinate movement and your brain start to work in a different way. So you start to get physically and mentally fit. The second thing is nutrition. Okay, the way you eat influence 90% on how your brain works, how your body works. And I'm not saying to become a vegetarian or vegan. That's not the solution, but it's to eat nutritious food. Sadly, a lot of people, they conduct a sedentary life. They stay home. They're scared to go out, or they buy pre-packed food because they don't want to cook. They don't want to wash dishes. You know what? Well, if you eat a packed food or processed food, this is not going to help you, your body, your mind to become healthier. And now more than ever, we need to become healthier and stronger so we can fight anything, that can be illness, or can be also fatigue, it can be stress, and can eventually turn into depression. And the third and last one, very practical, okay? Surround yourself with positive people. If you want to get positive, then you need to surround yourself with people that they're positive. If you surround yourself with friends that they also lost their job, and they also cry every day, and they also apply to 100 jobs and they get nothing, what is going to happen? You're going to get into this vicious circles of negativity. You never get out. So start surrounding yourself. Even doesn't need they don't need to be your friend, because also at the beginning, as I said, also I had this challenge, the first 2 weeks. Where did I find comfort? On YouTube. You have plenty of positive people there, people that can also help you get out of this vicious circle, and they can provide you some sometimes simple tips on how to change your daily routine or your habit, and to get into positive habit.
I agree wholeheartedly. I love there's a phrase in there, or a sort of a fact, I guess, that you become the average of the five people you spend the most time with, and
Totally.
that that
So,
yeah,
I mean,
working out who those
you
five
want
people need to be. You just got to make sure those five people are positive.
you want a more practical. I mean, for example, a person that is inspiring for me, and I'm sure for many people around the world, is this Tony Robbins. The guy has
Yeah.
so much energy, and when he talks, you can feel it, even if you watch a video of this Tony Robbins. And he's done actually a lot of free content over the past 6-8 months, for people to understand that you can do it, you can make it. But if you get stuck into your mindset, into your negative patterns, then you're dead. Then that's where you cannot. So going back into wellness and well-being, this is what it is. What we do in our hotel is to ensure that we help people feel good. And feeling good about yourself is not about just getting a massage and eating vegan food. That's not. We provide our menu. They are whole. They're full of any food from very fatty food, for example, very street like food, as well as it is with the vegetarian food, but and healthy items. But we don't oblige our guests to eat healthy. We oblige our guests to have a variety of food, so you can feel good about yourself. Feeling good about yourself is not about having the six pack. Although I would like to have them, but, I'm working hard, but they don't come. It's about feeling good about yourself, your body, who you are as an individual. This is wellness. This is where you are healthy, because you are happy about who you are, and then you can do anything you want. But if people are spending thousands of dollars in medicine and vitamins and supplement, and nothing changing their lifestyle, what is the point? You're wasting your money.
Oh, it drives me crazy, Rocco. The whole food at the end of the day, just don't eat processed food. It's very so. Processed food is bad for the environment. It's bad for you. Whatever your diet, whatever your beliefs, let's just get back to eating actual, real, whole food that's not made in a factory. It's a simple thing, but frustrating that it seems to be too hard, and particularly missing, I think, from the sort of commentary on COVID at the moment. Clearly, the best thing you can do for COVID is to focus on your physical health, your mental health, your cardio capacity. It's a respiratory disease, but it doesn't seem to be there. Not enough people are saying, look, go outside, go out into the forest, go out, have a walk, have a run, focus on your well-being, focus on what you're eating, and that's probably going to have the biggest impact if you do get COVID. And sadly missing, I think, from the commentary.
Totally.
Certainly
And
in the
actually,
UK.
we are in the perfect location because we are surrounded by nature. So people are getting contact with trees and green. So the environment here is very powerful. Even myself, when I walked through the gate of the resort on my very first day when I came for my interview, it was unbelievable. The feeling of being so little compared to nature, it was overwhelming. I really felt it, and it was a great feeling. It was not negative. It was very positive, but also humbling to understand that we are so small and we have to respect nature if we want to continue to live in this planet. We,
100%. I
we all
love
need to
spending time in
play
the
our
mountains.
part.
We do. Well, funny enough, so I was draw to a close, but that was my last question I wanted to ask you about. And you've said a few things. You mentioned earlier about the negatives, I guess, of travel and tourism, and you said that maybe the pandemic was a good thing in the fact that maybe it would slow us down and stop us traveling for a while. So you've obviously got some thoughts. Well, what do you think about? Yeah, I guess. It's difficult because hotels can be quite decadent. They can be quite luxurious. Just the concept of flying into a country and travel. What's your thoughts around the balance and the impact of luxury hotels, and how do we make them more sustainable, and just people's travel in general, I guess?
Listen, I mean, this is sustainability seems to be in everybody's mouth at the moment, and I think that the secret is very simple. I mean, there's no real magic wand, where we can transform everything into sustainable nowadays. But my theory about that is or practical example that we can all do as a hotelier or as an investor as well is why do we need to keep building huge hotels? With 500 rooms or even 1,000 rooms. Why don't we build smaller hotels that can be full rather than having a 1,000 room hotel that can be 75% full? I mean, let's build a 750 room hotel that can run a 85 or 90% occupancy. That's already being sustainable. You already reduce your footprint by 30%. But I don't know why this race of building the bigger, the better, the largest, or whatever. I don't get that. This is what I don't get. I feel that the smaller hotels, 200 rooms or less, they're so more conducive. You can actually meet people, talk to people. When you have a hotel with 1,000 rooms, you have like 3,000, 4,000 people in the same hotel. How can you make friendship? I don't know. But anyway, I guess that there is a market for everybody. I enjoy much better, obviously, to work, in a small hotel because you can do so many more things, in a small hotel, both with the staff as well with your guests. No, don't get me wrong; it's not just about guest experience; it's also the staff experience that is very different. If you work in a small hotel or in a large hotel. And finally, from a business point of view, well, of course, if it has to make sense, but a small hotel can also make a financial sense. Even being smaller doesn't mean that you're going to make less money. It's just a matter of make the concept of the hotel in a way that you attract the right market, and so you can get your return on the investment in the time that is normal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like you say, if we just apply it to all businesses, really, it's just, don't be massive. be good. And whether that means buying from your, sort of local suppliers and the local families that you know, and just, whilst recognizing that it's one planet and we're one species and we should have a global perspective and that sort of respect of everybody's values, there's nothing wrong with buying local and just keep things small. And I think the world in many ways would be a better place. So I share that 100%. You are my hospitality brother, Rocco. I feel like we're destined to meet and chat all this over a nice cold beer or a glass of wine someday in our future. But we're pretty much out of time. Was there any other burning issues, Rocco, that you really wanted to talk about today, or were you happy?
No, I'm pretty happy. I just, maybe just to end our conversation is, to stay positive, just hold on tight. This is a storm that we all going through. It's not the same boat. It's the same storm. Some time back, I also learned another, there is a say we all in the same boat. No, it's not true. We're not in the same boat. We are in the same storm. So some people have better boat than others. So if there is a person that has a better boat, ask for help. Ask to go in that boat, and see how can you get away, with the storm. Now is the time to help each other more than ever before. Hospitality has always been the hospitability has always been reciprocal, even between members of the industry. And now we need to be even more focus in providing help to others, because guess what, when you help another person, you also help yourself. You feel good when you give help, and you give for free. You feel good, and this feeling good again gives you a positive mindset. There are simple things that one person can do, rather than writing a long message on LinkedIn about, I'm still looking for a job. Don't be so negative. Help other people or learn from other people and help each other on how you can share best practice one another and get out of this negative habits. So that's how I would like to close it.
I think that's a good close. You are a tsunami of positivity, Rocco. I love it. If people want to follow your journey and keep in touch with you, where's the best place for them to go? Is there a particular social media channel? Is LinkedIn the best place? Where should people go to find you?
I use LinkedIn mostly. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I like this platform. I like to share jobs. Even I share the few jobs available. I always share, so at least the people, if they follow me there, they can also check on my wall and they can see everything that I share, including interesting articles, including interesting relevant videos, including jobs, including opportunities. So at the end of the day, I try to help as many people as possible, through this platform, which I think is great if well used. I'm also on Instagram. If you like, you can also follow me there, but I don't use it as often. And that's it basically. So these are
What's your handle for Instagram, Rocco?
is at Rocco Bova. You can find me there.
It's a pretty cool name, isn't it? There's not too many Rocco Bovas. Okay, I will put some links up on the website as well. But look, just thank you. It's for me, this is now, we're just coming into early evening on a Friday. I work, I've got my own bars and restaurants. It's been a challenging time, but the energy you've given me, you're a perfect Friday evening. I'm going to go and open a beer. And actually, the sun's come out, Rocco, fittingly. So I'm going to go and open a beer, and I'm going to see you in the weekend with good energy as a result of our conversation. So thank you so much for getting in touch and sparing the time. I really appreciate it. And best of luck with your future.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. Thanks, Rocco. Right, I really hope that filled you with a little bit of joy. As I'm sure you could tell, I really enjoyed Rocco's energy, and I love some of the little nuggets that he shared, not least of which the idea that he welcomes guests with a handshake and leaves them with a hug. Visitors are in essence welcomed as a guest, but leave as a friend. And I think that nicely typifies a great hospitality experience, particularly in the hotel sector. Now, I've put up links to the resort and to Rocco's LinkedIn and Instagram account that we have discussed. You can find them in the show notes for this episode over at humansofhospitality.co.uk. Just click on the search icon on the top of the website and type Rocco in the search bar. Or even easier, just sign up with your details on the website, and then every Monday morning I will send you a quick email with that week's guest and any useful links right into your inbox. Saves you going hunting, and I don't send you any spam or share your details with anyone. It's just you and me and a useful email once a week. Okay, we're done. You're at the end. Go and get on with your day, but tune in next Monday when I will be back with another conversation with an awesome human of hospitality. Cheers.